All right, hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're viewing us from. I'm Invetica.eth. I'm joined today by Nix and Remy Wah of the EthStaker community. And we're here today with Lansky of the DappNode community and platform. Welcome, Lansky. How are you doing today?
Hey there, I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, we're happy to have you here, especially given everyone's busy schedules. That's sort of like the default for crypto, so I very much appreciate the time. I want to just kind of jump into it. I'm really excited about learning a little bit more about DappNode, kind of the problems it's trying to solve for, and the latest updates that you guys have pushed through. But before we kind of get into the real good, the entree here, the beef, why don't you just give us just a couple minutes and explain to me like I'm five in terms of who DappNode is and what those problems specifically are that you're solving for those maybe that aren't already inundated or know of DappNode.
Yeah, of course. So DappNode is an open source project that tries to solve kind of like the UX problem of how to run nodes. How do I deploy any sort of decentralized nodes, decentralized systems without any technical knowledge, without having to touch command line? It tries to answer the question of, can I deploy a validator following like just a couple of clicks and uploading my key stores into somewhere, and I can still be self-sovereign with what I run? Can I still run my validators in my own machines? Can I still hold my own keys, never have to surrender my keys to anybody or give or put my keys in some third-party machine? So DappNode basically tries to solve this problem. And to go into a little bit of like the origin story, if I may, DappNode actually was born out of like the three founders are Edu, Jordi Bailina, and Griff Green. And Jordi Bailina was heavily involved in the Catalan independentist movement in Catalonia, who's a part of Spain that wants to. There's some people who want to be independent in there. And they had this push for a referendum in order for people to be able to vote whether they wanted to be independent or not. And Spanish government just blocked all of the websites supporting this at ISP level. They just called ISPs and said, hey, these websites do not serve them. And Jordi Bailina, who was already into the centralized systems and starting to dabble into crypto and blockchain, was like, hey, I can deploy these websites on IPFS just like that. And it did. And they had exactly zero traffic. Because in 2017, there was no gateways. There was nothing. There was no way that people could access IPFS nodes without deploying an IPFS node themselves. And then Jordi was like, oh, all right. Okay, so how do I make it so communities can host their own infrastructure? How do I make it so I can deploy an IPFS node and I can give access to all of my friends, to all of my community, to all of my university, to all of my co-working space, to all of my, whatever it is, whatever my community is. And that's how DappNode was born, from the idea that these decentralized technologies hold so much potential, but this potential will always be unrealized if we don't manage to decentralize at the infrastructure level, at the access level, if we don't manage to be able for people themselves to be able to run these nodes, run these validators themselves. So that's a little bit the origin story. Yeah.
Is it still just the four of you working at DappNode? How many people work at DappNode?
So we are sort of like the bigger team is kind of like fluctuates a little bit, but the bigger team, we're around 10 people now.
Okay, cool.
Jordi Bailina is doing the ZK VM with Polygon. Griff Green is focused on Giveth and Common Stack, and it's Edu and me sort of like leading this, and then we have like an amazing team of developers and community people that are helping with the rest.
You definitely have some very responsive people on the DappNode server.
Ooh. Whew, thanks. That's we're trying. We also get, like, depending on the week, we also get the opposite complaint, like, come on guys, my validator is not working, what am I doing? So
I think I think one complaint that people have is just because they don't, like this space ends up being a hobby space for a lot of people. So when they can't get responses outside of working hours, they're like, what are you even doing? And it's like, this is our job. Like we have to have clear boundaries.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Totally. And a good way of solving this is like engaging the community to give community support. And I think we've done, and like not us, but like organically, this is one thing that has happened in the community. Like people are just amazing, and they support each other a lot. But anything that's like maybe like more specific or more technical, yeah, we try to be there.
Kind of going back to the origin story, I love one. I didn't know that, so that was really cool to see kind of what fueled and motivated DappNode to where it is today. I'm curious to kind of open that up a little bit more in terms of. Sorry, 1 second, I lost my train of thought.
What are the latest things you guys have come out with? You guys, I saw that you guys came out with like today or yesterday, the option to add MEV boost or choose your relays.
Yeah, so that's been on for a while. And we've sort of like been working a lot in the UX side, right? So DappLion, who is now the lead at Lodestar, he's one of the OGs at DappNode. Started with DappNode, and then moved to ChainSafe, sorry. And yeah, he started pushing the Keymanager API, because like every client had their own ways of managing, and like from DappNode we wanted to have like one UI that could manage the keys regardless of which client you are using, right? Because the only one that had a UI was Prism, and for the type of public that we're doing, that remember we want people to never touch command line and to be able to do that through UI. That meant that this was pretty bad. The DappNode was looking pretty bad in terms of client diversity, because of the type of customers that we were targeting, the type of users that we were targeting. We could only offer Prism. So we started with the Keymanager API. We pushed it very hard. The teams came over. I have to say that this guy that worked at Twitter and worked at Twitch, Joachim, wanted to get into Web3, and the dude is a machine, and started implementing it in the Web3 signer by the Teku team, by a consensus. So thanks to that, we could just create this flow where the keys are always held in the Web3 signer, and the Web3 signer has a UI, and the user just need to upload the keys in there, and then they can just, through a drop-down menu, change the validator client that they can, right? So the latest improvements have been in UX. Like, how can we make UX better? How can we make it super simple for people to stake? And yeah, an MEV boosts. How do we integrate it in the way that makes sense? And how do we? So we basically take care of all the backends and all the connections in the backend. You just have to follow. I'll show you later the things if you want, how it looks.
That was actually my next question. Like, can we have a look at what it looks like?
Ooh, hell yeah. I'm excited to show. I'll find the right tab. Okay. I think you should be seeing my DappNode now.
Yep, see it.
Okay. Excellent. So for those who have never seen DappNode, I'm going to show you very quickly what it is. So basically, I am connected now through VPN to my DappNode, which is at my family's house, because I move way too much, I travel way too much. So it's at my dad's house, and I am connected through a VPN. So I am tunneling straight into this server. This sits under the desk under my dad's desk, and and I'm tunneling directly to it from wherever I am in the world. When I'm in conference, when I'm here in Turkey, wherever I am. So this is how I connect to my DappNode. And the key feature of DappNode is this Dapp store, right? Like everything here in the Dapp store, you can basically download, you can get a Bitcoin node, you can just click install and boom, and you're installing it. And now we go to packages and we'll see it appear right here, Bitcoin. We can check the logs, voila, it's working. Now I'm going to delete it because I have no use for Bitcoin at this particular time.
Who has used Bitcoin, right?
So at this particular time, I've got no use for it. And yeah, so what's interesting here is that this Dapp store is completely decentralized. And what do I mean by completely decentralized? This is basically a smart contract on the Ethereum network. And I am connecting to an Ethereum node in order to read the smart contract and see, hey, smart contract, what is the content that's available? This smart contract acts as the repository. And the smart contract has a link to an IPFS hash. And this IPFS hash is where you can download these packages, these Docker images. Everything is Docker based. So you download these Docker images that have like this standard form, what we call the DappNode package, and then you basically don't have to configure anything because we know exactly what you're downloading. You're downloading the Docker image that we have, and we know exactly that it's going to fit perfectly with the rest of the DappNode system. And we can configure all the environment variables, all the system variables, and everything as we want. So, but without having to touch anything or connect ourselves. So a DappNode has an Ethereum node in it. So basically you connect, you read this not from an Ethereum node that we provide, which you can as well if you don't want to run your own node. But you're basically locally, you're reading in your own node what's available, and then downloading this content locally as well from your IPFS node. So it's basically you're using two decentralized technologies that you are hosting the nodes in itself to never have to connect to a central server and to download everything here. Now we had to find a balance between UI and user experience and decentralization, right? And before you used to have to wait until your Ethereum node was synced in order to be able to use DappNode. So now we're also providing an endpoint, which you can choose. You can choose to connect to our endpoint or to an endpoint of your choice in order to read this the smart contract. Just to connect to the smart contract and read the repository, and that makes it a lot better. Just in case your node goes out of sync or whatever, you have this fallback. Now, what else? So yeah, let's get into the latest updates that we have done in terms of UI. So you'll see these like stakers on the side. You'll see the stakers menu, and I'm gonna do it in Predator. You basically, when you click here on stakers, you have like this UI that sort of like guides you into preparing all the pieces that you need. Because before we used to like have everything in the Dapp store, and you would need to like, oh, so I need an execution layer. I also need a consensus layer. My keys will go into the Web3 signer. And there's another package which is MEV Boost. And how the heck do I find all these packages here? And now you will not find them because we've moved them all on this stakers UI. And which is like, okay, here's what you gotta do to run an Ethereum validator. 1, choose an execution layer. All right, I'm choosing Nethermind. Then 2, choose a consensus layer and validator. Okay, perfect. I am choosing Nimbus, for example. And I'm not going to put field recipient address for now. But here's like, okay, you can choose field recipient address, whatever it is. You can choose your graffiti, validating for DappNode, and checkpoint sync. So checkpoint sync I don't have to tell you guys the marvels of checkpoint sync and how fast you can switch between consensus layers. But yeah, you can connect to this node for checkpoint sync, or you can put your own node if you don't trust us or you want to do anything. So there's one of our design principles is to always give optionality to the user, right? The user is self-sovereign. Always, they can choose all of the options that they could choose if they were not using DappNode. Finally, let's go for remote signer. This is what will hold the keys, the validator keys. And the reason why we do this is because then you can change consensus client just like that. With checkpoint sync, you're validating again in 2 minutes. And you don't have to worry about deleting the keys here, putting them there. They're always in the Web3 signer, and this helps so much avoid any sort of like slashing risk or any sort of stuff. And then we can choose MEV boosts, and then you can choose the relayers that you wanna choose. I can choose them all. Now,
I have a question about that part.
Of course.
If you go onto the mainnet one, when you choose the MEV boost, you have like the X's. Have you guys thought about like switching the because a red X makes it look like it's bad.
I know, right? Like, yeah, I've gotten this feedback before. Yeah, like it's is it OFAC compliant? Yes, it's compliant, or no, it's not compliant, right? But if you're going quickly, it's like, oh no, this doesn't have whatever OFAC is, and
yeah,
I want OFAC, right? Yeah, which in reality it's the opposite. Yeah, you're totally right. I'm getting this feedback a lot. We need to find another way of presenting it. But you
could always just put change the header to uncensored, and then switch all of them,
and then do the check.
Yeah,
that could be definitely a good way of putting it, uncensored. Yeah, for sure. The another idea that I had today, because today I got protosynthesis, anti-prosynthesis, or sorry, was saying that we should hide the OFAC compliant ones. And as I said, one of the design principles is to always give the user optionality. And we know that there's many people in the DappNode community who, for whatever reason, which might be perfectly valid, they might have become a little bit over compliers, and I'm sure they have their own valid reasons. So we want to give this optionality, of course, but maybe there's like a toggle. I was thinking that maybe we could just put a toggle and just show by default the ones that are non-compliant, or and then make a like OFAC compliance toggle, and if you click on that toggle, then it'll show you the ones that are OFAC compliant.
I love that solution.
Okay. Yeah, good. I'm just bouncing ideas here. Fantastic. Great. Excellent. So let's go back to here, and let's just say that I want to apply these. So we'll see that I don't have anything right here. So I'll just apply changes. Yes, I want to apply this configuration, some disclaimer, and it's now setting up my staker configuration. Cool. So now basically what it's doing is, if I don't have installed Nethermind, it'll download from IPFS the Nethermind Docker, and it'll start running it. It'll also download the Nimbus if I don't have it, and it'll start running it. It'll download everything, all of these packages, and start running. And in the backend, it's configuring all the environment variables, so they will all know how to speak to each other. For example, setting that the engine API of Nimbus needs to connect to Nethermind, etc., etc. So all these like pesky things that we need to do so everything runs. Now I can go to packages and see that everything has been installed. MEV Boost, Nimbus. I'm also running Prism for some reason. Nethermind, and voila. So now the next thing that we need to do would be to, if we have keys, so basically now I just set up everything I need in terms of software for running a validator, right? So one of the things that we on purpose do not offer in DappNode is a way to generate keys. And the reason why we don't do that is because it's a pretty bad idea to generate the keys and generate the mnemonic in the same machine that is going to be hot 24/7 connected to the internet with validating the keys. So that part, we're still figuring out how to like make it even more accessible for people. One thing that I think it was born from the EthStakers community, which is Wagyu. Oh God, such a lifesaver. This is the best thing in the universe. So we're recommending Wagyu to everybody. Also, no code, no command line. Just download this, create the keys, you're good to go. That's beautiful. That's fantastic. So people need to generate the keys and do the deposit by themselves. We have guides that guide the user to do that. And finally, assuming that we have these keys, and we go here. Are you seeing my other tab? Or it's in the same way?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful, fantastic. So now here we go to the Keymanager UI. Here we would go on import key stores, and you can see that I already imported this key store. And then this Keymanager UI is something that that was created in order to have like this UI to manage the keys, no matter which consensus client you use. Here we can see that it's connected to Prism, actually, not Nimbus and Nethermind. And voila, and we can see the keys that we have. Now, a fancy little thing that we just included in the newest update is the fact that if you have like 5, 6, 7, maybe 100 keys, you wish you had 100 keys, huh? I wish I had 100 keys validating in here. So basically, you don't like it will just generate your dashboard on Beacon Chain like that. Boom. Oops. I shouldn't have shown that. This is my testing DappNode, okay? This is better. Joking. So yeah, you'll just click here and it'll just create a dashboard for you. And if you want to individually for every key, you have the URL here. By the way, this Keymanager UI is from we're maintaining it. It was created by Joachim when we were doing the whole thing with the Keymanager API. We thought that we needed a UI that used that. And we connected with Joachim, who is an absolute beast. Joachim, if you're listening, like, I could never thank you enough for this. And now we're making it nicer. This is in our repository, but everybody can use this for whatever they want. This is not DappNode specific. The UI is in our repo. But please, I encourage everybody to go in here and make improvements, whatever you guys need. You want to do like Grafana integration, you want to put like anything in here. It's in our repo, but it's completely open source. It's a tool that it should be useful for more people than DappNode. Right now, as far as I know, only DappNode is using it. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it shouldn't be like that. This is an amazing piece that can help manage the keys in a visual way, and many other projects could benefit from this.
This is awesome. I know the Keymanager API is being used by different projects in different ways, but this is a great tool for everyone to use, and I suggest everyone have a look at it. I was wondering about your hardware. So I believe DappNode is also offering like pre-bundled hardware and machine that you can just buy and then use. What's the rationale behind that, and what does it look like?
Yeah, so one of the things that we realized when we started with our open source software, which is basically like our main offering and the thing that we want to keep pushing, is that in order to make it super easy for people to run, we couldn't expect them to know how to do a Linux installation. My grandma doesn't know how to use Linux and how to install Linux on a machine, and even less to build your own machine. So we needed to offer like a plug and play thing, and people go like, oh, but like DappNode, like it's an expensive machine, and like DappNode is free. DappNode is free. Then there's the DappNode Home, which is hardware, which we're selling, and there's a reason why we're using the hardware that we're using. Here we have the store, just the website. Yeah, choose your path. You can do the DappNode Home, which is plug and play, which is the machines, or you can use DappNode Core, which is the software, and you can install it in any machine that you want. So if we go to the store, you can see like there's a few options. Like basically there's 64 gigabytes of RAM. They're mostly all of them with 4 terabytes NVMe, and we have like this Hopper special edition. The amazing guys at Hopper that we've created this like special machine with like customized, and the boxes are like the unboxing experience is really, really tailored. It looks really beautiful, and it's sort of like adapted a little bit to run a Hopper node, right? And it also comes with enough Hopper tokens to spin up your Hopper node your Hopper node from scratch, basically. So yeah, the rationale is basically that to make it even easier for anybody to be able to just get this machine, plug it. There is always trouble with routers, so you gotta get over the trouble with routers. Once the trouble with routers is overcome, then it should be as easy as just connecting here from wherever I am in the world.
What's the most common problem you guys are seeing with routers?
So UPnP sucks. That's basically it. So UPnP is the protocol that allows the DappNode to say, hey, I'm running Geth. I want to connect to some peers, and I want you to forward this port because I need access to the outside, Mr. Router. And the router, if UPnP is activated, will say, yes, sir, of course, here's the door, please have access. But UPnP is kind of like a retarded cousin, and sometimes it goes like, yes, sir, of course, and sometimes it goes like, no. And it's very hard to troubleshoot.
So you guys are having a lot of people having to manually forward yes. Their ports.
Yeah, and for some people, for the people that we're targeting, again, we're targeting people that have never used terminal. We're targeting people that have maybe they have used terminal. Maybe like we have a lot of people that are technical, but they just don't want to have to do it all the time.
Yeah,
you know. But some of the people, they've never gone into their routers at all. They just get their router, they plug it, and if they have a problem with the internet, they call the ISP.
Yeah, I'm in your same situation where I travel a lot. So my validator is my node is set up at somebody else's house, and asking for access to their router was such a pain, because most people are like, what do you mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Port forwarding is, I mean, it's super simple, but yeah, it takes, okay, I need to look out how to get into my router. What's this? What do you mean I cannot just put router.com? What do you mean 192.168.11? What is that? So yeah. So that's basically the main problem. But once we overcome this, and that's why we have like sort of like in our Discord, we have like a special channel for like setup support. How do you set up your machine, and then you're good to go. Then it should everything be easy. I have to say that there are some ISPs that are very tricky, and there are some routers that are very tricky, and we have never managed. This is usually not a problem unless you want to connect, like if you don't want to connect from outside, because DappNodes, the machines that we sell, also emit a Wi-Fi hotspot. So basically you can always connect to the DappNode Wi-Fi that is emitting. Let me go right here. So here in Wi-Fi, you can see that it also, like right now it's stopped because I do have access, but if I had I can just change and connect via Wi-Fi. Since this is connected to your router, it also acts like you can also connect to the internet, and you can connect here, etc., etc. So you can have access to, this is the standard way of accessing it. But if you move around, you will want to configure the VPN, right? Yeah. So last thing on the hardware, some people are saying like, by the way, we have like a Black Friday week. There's everything is 15% off. Just saying, because just the banner is here and it's kind of very ominous. And yeah, one thing about the hardware is that some people ask like, oh, why don't you do cheaper hardware, and like there's definitely cheaper options than Intel NUCs and than Samsung 4 terabyte NVMe's, for sure. But considering that these machines are meant to be running for a very long time, and they're going to be online all of the time, we prefer to minimize the amount of support cases that would come if people were like, oh, my there's some weird error, green screen, and like some BIOS thing that has broken, like, and this is what happened, unfortunately, when we used sort of like a bit more affordable hardware from a maybe less reputable manufacturers. So we're selling sort of like the best of the best, with the best NVMe's, 3-year warranty. No, that's 1-year warranty. And the best Intel NUCs. And yes, it is a little bit more expensive than what you can do at home, but I encourage you, by all means, to do it at home. This is, again, just an option for if you don't want to do it at home, if you don't want to build your own machine. But like DappNode is mainly a free open source software project.
I'm curious for any audience who doesn't have the required 32 ETH. Have you guys been in contact at all with like a pool like Rocket Pool who allows smaller stakes? Is it possible to run a Rocket Pool node on DappNode?
Yes. So no, Rocket Pool, no, but we have been in contact. Rocket Pool, so Rocket Pool has a very tricky way to use Docker containers that sort of like kind of collides a little bit with what we're doing with DappNode. So it needs a bit of tweaking on the back end to make it work. That's why we don't have it yet. But we are completely platform agnostic. We want to offer all the options that we can to the users. And if anybody here in the Rocket Pool community wants to make a DappNode package, heck yeah, please contact. We have an SDK that's fairly simple to use. And with that SDK, you can just basically, if you have a Docker image, you can create a DappNode package of it.
Nice.
And
yeah, because I think a lot of the times hardware is the really intimidating for people to put together. Like I feel comfortable in command line, and I still am not comfortable putting together my own hardware. And I actually I have a DappNode.
That makes me so happy.
I have not yet set it up though.
It's weird that it has no cables hanging from it.
Yeah. Completely wireless. No, but I know that Rocket Pool is in talks about their 8 ETH setup, and like having an 8 ETH node with DappNode hardware would just unlock so many people who A, don't have 32 ETH, and B, don't have like the know-how to put together their own computer.
Absolutely, yes. This was one of my takeaways from DEF CON. Going to Latin America and getting in touch with the Latin American community, speaking with them, speaking for people that came from all over the place, like really grounded me to see what we need at DappNode, or like at Ethereum in general, to really get to all of these communities, to really get to all of these people that it's very hard to put together. Like one validator is the price of an apartment in Bogota. That's what we saw. And there was this big, very close to the venue actually from DEF CON. There was like this, hey, it costs so many to buy an apartment here. And we calculated, and it was 32 ETH. I was like, okay.
No problem. Housing or a validator.
Exactly. So we're looking a lot into liquid staking derivative networks, LSD networks. We are looking at StakeWise, and we are looking at Stakehouse from the BlockSwap team as well, that have their LSD protocols. And apart from having an excellent weekend, you can also stake with only 4 ETH with LSD. So like that would be incredible. That would be like, okay, you can be a node operator by putting 4 ETH and you create this LSD network, which effectively would, like, for people to understand, is like you could create like a small Lido. You could create a small Lido where people can just put like 2 ETH, 0.001 ETH, and you can be the node operator of it with just 4 ETH.
What protocol did you say that was?
So that is, so I know Stakewise is doing something very similar. I'm not super familiar with Stakewise v3, but Stakewise v3 is very similar to that, but I was describing the LSD networks from BlockSwap or Stakehouse.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
I wanted to come back to the Dapp store.
Mhm.
I find it wonderful. That's a great idea, and like the way that you present it is awesome. How, like you said, all you need is a Docker image to add a new app in there. Is that
Yeah.
permission? Like, do you need someone's permission to add your own package there, or
Such
is
a great
that
question.
permissionless?
Yeah, so it's permissionless, but you'll see here that there's a big problem about doing permissionless uploading, into giving permissionless access to this front page, right? Which is, I can create something that's really appealing, like a fake MEV boost before we had the official one, or something that people really want, and have like malicious code that will just steal all of your validator keys. And we know that the only thing that they can do is a griefing attack. But if you wanted to large scale attack validators on Ethereum and damage the Ethereum network by causing huge correlated attacks, you could do something like that. You could be capturing with malicious packages. We could be capturing a large amount of validator keys, and without necessarily want to extract money from these validators, you could basically then launch a coordinated attack with all of these keys in order to take off a huge chunk of Ethereum thanks to correlated penalties. So this is curated, what we're seeing here, but then there's this public repository over here that it tells you, hey, it's basically what I just told you. Hey, there's code here that is permissionless, so be careful. Oh, directory loaded but found no packages. That's no bueno. Here we go. Now it's loading. Cool. So all of this is the public repository, and we have like Starknet, we have like a Binance Smart Chain node, Avalanche, Internext, an old version of Aragon when it was still called TurboGeth. Like here's the wild west. Trinity. Do you guys remember Trinity? The
No.
Python client? That was the Python client, the Ethereum execution layer Python client. This is amazing that it's still here. So yeah, this is
what we're seeing right now. Is that a mix of all the curated and permissionless packages, or is this just all the permissionless ones?
These are the ones that have been uploaded to the public repository, and so the public repository is the smart contract that by default you will upload with the SDK. So when you create with the SDK, and there's like SDK publish, like DappNode SDK publish, and it will pop your MetaMask, and you will need to do a transaction to actually submit this data into the repository with the IPFS hash of the content of the package that you have created. So by default, it will appear there. And you see that some of them, like MEV Boost, is repeated, and it's also in the normal repository. Well, actually, like it's not, because we just take it off to put it into the Stakers UI. But you see some repetition because we have whitelisted some to be from the public repository to be shown in the UI as well. So the whitelisting.
How does I was going to ask how does a project get from the public repo to your whitelist?
Yeah, so basically, it's a matter of trust. As of now, it's we get to know the developer, we get to know the team, and there needs to be a commitment of maintaining this package, of like keep updating it when there's updates in the underlying upstream versions, to be maintaining this. And then if that happens, of course, let's put it there. But it's very trust based, and we're sort of like the gatekeepers of that. And we've experimented with TCRs, and it just doesn't work very well. And there's just so many vectors of attack. Like I don't want to be responsible for somebody being slashed or griefed or their keys stolen and being a headache. So right now, the best compromise that we have found is, hey, public repository, here's everything. And then people can advertise the package themselves. And if you're legit and you want to maintain this and your code is open source and we can just have a look at your code, then we're going to put you in the other one. It's no biggie, so to speak.
Do you think that's something that eventually long-term could be offloaded in terms of responsibility by the DAO in terms of like a work stream?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. This is, I was just talking to Anvetica.eth before, and I think you guys have found at EthStakers have found such a great community, such a good way of organizing yourself and creating work streams, on really getting this bottom-up movement. And this is something that we should learn a lot, and we can learn a lot. And I want this to happen in DappNode. I want this sort of like bottom-up initiatives to arise, and that would be like the perfect thing to have some people from the DAO do. Yeah.
What are you guys? What are
sorry,
your guys' biggest problems that you're running into right now?
So, well, I'm just going to show you this. So there's the explore.dappnode.io, which gives you to a GitHub page. Then you can see all the packages that have ever existed. This checks both on the public repository and on the DNP repository, which is the DappNode package repository, the sort of like official. And then you can see here all the history of all the packages that have all ever existed. And you want to get some old versions, you want to downgrade to a previous version, and you go to, if you want to get the previous version, you'll see like all the history. I want to downgrade to 1.20. I can just click here, and then yes, that's the one. I take the IPFS hash, I copy this, I go to the Dapp store, and I put this IPFS hash, and here it is. And I could downgrade to the previous version. So everything since everything is on chain, everything can be traced, right? One more thing that I wanted to say is that there's also the trust on on who's doing the package, right? So if you can choose, if somebody has done a package, the packages are cryptographically signed by Ethereum addresses. You'll see that this is not signed because it's not the last version, and it only checks the signature of the last version. The last version, you'll find it right here. So this one would be signed. But anyway, technicalities. So basically, you can go to here, and you can go to security, advanced, I think. Yeah, here we go. So here you can basically put add new keys. For example, I can go to, I know that the person that has done let's say the Alephium package, which is another layer 1, is a very trusty person, right? So I could just go to the transaction, and which I can find right here. Could just go to the transaction, see who has uploaded this, and because I know this person and I know that they're uploading packages from this address, right? So I can just copy this address, and I can add a new key, which this key name is going to be the developer, and the suffix is like, okay, which repository do I want to use, like the public or anything that he puts it public dot DappNode.eth, I want to trust. So I don't want it to give me an alert. And then here I'm going to put the key that I just copied from the transaction, submit key. And now there's an alert when you install packages that are not signed, or that you don't trust the key. So if somebody tries to dupe you by giving you a package, like a link, an IPFS link to a package that is actually not signed by the original developer or somebody that you already trust, it'll give you an alert, and it'll still let you install it if you ignore the warnings, but it'll give you a warning. And this is very important because it's very hard to dupe somebody to install a package that is not completely trusted. And you can remove this sort of like, oh, by the way, same person, same key. You can remove this person, so you can trust people that you know that they're doing great stuff, but by default you're going to be shown warnings that, hey, this is not trusted, right? And yeah, sorry, you before I went into a like rant on like nitty-gritty details of security on the DappNode packages, you were asking another question, sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just asking, like, what kind of issues are you guys seeing right now that you're working on resolving? What kind of like big issues is DappNode addressing?
Yeah, so UX. The Stakers UI, I'm very proud of it. It works very well. It looks pretty, and you just choose and stuff. But the next step is to, like, okay, you click on Stakers and you have like a modal that says, hey, do you want to stake? Do you know what an execution layer is? Here you have these options. This is what client diversity is, and this is why you should choose this one. And guide a lot more, including a guide to, hey, this is why you're not going to generate the keys in the DappNode, but here's the link to download Wagyu, and here's a video on how to use Wagyu to generate the keys. And click next. You have the keys already? Perfect. Now you put them in here, and this is how you use this. And a lot more guidance, a lot more hand-holding. So this can be done by everybody. Why does it need to be done by everybody? Because the next step is I can be a node operator for Rocket Pool, for any LSD network with only 4 ETH. The next step is to bring the infrastructure, to bring the benefits of running infrastructure to even more people that do not have 32 ETH. And things like Obol, things like Diva, things like SSV network, things like LSD networks, Stakewise V3, BlockSwap Stakehouse LSD, and I'm sure I'm missing a bunch more. Those are projects that are working exactly on that. And there's many reasons, there's security and stuff, but the way we look at it is accessibility. These projects can make staking or participating in the ownership of the biggest computing network in the universe, which is Ethereum, to even more people. So that's pretty much what we're focusing.
I love this. It's just really, it makes me happy to know that like EthStaker is so keen on advocating and supporting the home staker, right? That's always going to be the gold standard. So it's great to see DappNode sort of abstract away the heavy lifting for the technical side while not necessarily stripping away like the core rights of the user and still giving them that. It really much aligns with sort of like, I think, why we all like and love Ethereum as an ethos. So that's really great to see in here. Just real quick, for today's community call POAP, the link is in the video description. We have fully adopted the POAP checkout system. So to claim today's POAP, click on the link in the YouTube comment section. You will give the equivalent of 2 DAI or USDC or ETH, depending on what you want to donate to. And the POAP will be automatically minted and distributed into the wallet address that you donate to. Up next too, just a quick community update. EthStaker will be taking a brief holiday hiatus after this community call and resuming again in December. We'll be meeting with the Obol team and learning a little bit about their system and software. So look forward to that. Lansky,
Love this,
anything
guys.
that you wanted to touch on or shill before we kind of wrap things up here?
I wanted to shield this amazing project called EthStakers. Seriously, like, how can we do more shit together? Like, I have so much respect for what you guys do. So I gotta say thank you. And thank you for inviting me and offering me this platform.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you again for your time. And just before we wrap up, if someone's interested in either building for a package or they want to get dialed into the community, how can they get tapped into DappNode's community?
Yeah, so our Discord is where most action lives. We also have a forum, forum.dappnode.io. And hit us up on Twitter. DMs are open. Any form of communication. If you have any questions, or if you're not technical, you want to see like how easy it is really to set up a validator, just ask, and there's videos, and yeah, feel free. And especially if you're a builder, come, we need you.
I just want to
New
say
packages.
there have been successful Gitcoin grants in the past for people building DappNode packages.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so someone who wants to see something in the DappNode store, you can literally get funding to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And you know what I saw? Like, I've been a little bit, but like there's this Grid Plus Lattice packages integration. This is mind blowing. I just saw it in the public repository. You know, things pop up. Like, it's beautiful.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I very much appreciate the time today. And that's all from us today. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.